Welcome to the Above Mentality Podcast, inspiring stories of success by extraordinary people. And now, your host, H.J. Sanchez.
So, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Above Mentality Podcast. This is episode number 6, número 6. And before I start, I just want to remind you, if you like this content, please, three things. Like the content, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. You can see us on YouTube, the Above Mentality Podcast, or you can listen to us on Spotify, the Above Mentality Podcast. Guys, help us share the voice. This podcast was created with the vision and the mission of sharing and celebrating success stories by ordinary people doing extraordinary things. So please share the content. Today, super excited to have this special host with me. Guest with me. Her name is Meghan Hannon, and I'm just gonna read some of her accolades. She's a registered dental hygienist, fitness model, certified nutritional coach, personal trainer. She wants to create a fitness brand. She has it all. With you, let me introduce you to Meghan Hannon. Hi, Meghan.
Hi.
Welcome to the Above Mentality Podcast. Thank you for accepting my invitation. It's a true honor to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great. So, Meghan, you're a local girl, right? You are from here, from North Carolina.
Yeah. So I live right here in North Carolina, Apex. I'm originally from Virginia Beach, but I have lived in North Carolina since 2015. So I've been here for almost 10 years now.
Great. Nice. So Meghan, I want to start. My first question in every podcast is the following. Who is Meghan Hannon? Please tell the audience who you are.
Sure. So, gosh, where do I begin? I know you already kind of gave me a little intro with some bullet points of my bio. To answer that question, I would just say that I'm 30 years old. I have already done quite a lot in terms of like my professional career with dental hygiene. And right now, you've actually caught me at a really transitional and pivotal point in my life where
Okay.
I'm actually in the process of switching my career into the fitness industry. So
Okay.
I would say the most important thing now is that I'm still figuring out life right now. And I've kind of got this spark right now that I'm super excited to start exploring different things and really pursue what I'm passionate about.
Right. I think you mentioned something very important, Hannon. Meghan. Is that you're in the transition and figure it out things. This takes me back to when I was in college as well. When you go out of high school and you go to college, you start like, what I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna study, what are we gonna become. So there's a lot of questions. So you saying that with a smile on your face is super good to hear, because it's a normal human process, right?
Yeah, that's so true. I know I'm very young still. I still feel really young. I'm not in my 20s anymore, but I think for me, I've spent my 20s kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I made a decision to get a degree and get a certification in hygiene so that I could have a good, stable job. And I'm really proud of myself for doing that. But,
Sure.
I kind of ignored what I was really passionate about. And now it's really great that I have the opportunity with a stable job now that I can pursue
There
things
you
that
go.
I love to do. So I think you're right that it doesn't matter how old you are or what phase of life you're in. I think there's always time to pursue your passions and go for what you want.
Just to give you an example, I'm 49 years old and I started my brand and a podcast, so I'm still figuring it out at this
Yes.
age. But having the best time of my life, definitely.
Love it.
Meghan, let's take us back to college. And you went to study science.
Mhm.
Was the dental hygienist always on the back of your mind, like your goal going into college, or that was something that happened by accident?
Yeah. So I'll start by saying no. Dental hygiene was never my dream job. I always knew I wanted to do something in healthcare.
Healthcare.
I
Okay.
was always really fascinated with science, biochemistry, nutrition, especially. I actually originally wanted to be a dietitian.
Okay.
And long story short, um, life was happening in my 20s. I always had different full time jobs, was trying to balance school at the same time.
Sure.
Didn't always, it wasn't a linear path. And eventually, I kind of was tired of just doing these minimal wage jobs. And I did some research and I was like, okay, what can I do that kind of meets in the middle right now?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
kind of realized I was like, okay, dental hygiene, you only have to have 2 years of school and you come out, you get your license and you, you know, have a really good paying job that's
Yeah.
stable. And
You have a stable base.
yeah, and it's a skill that I can use forever.
Sure.
I don't think the job demand is ever gonna go anywhere. I think people are always gonna need their teeth cleaned, unless
That's
we have
true.
robots doing it for us one day. But so I think for that, for college with that in mind, it was more I tried to be responsible and there was a factor. I did feel some pressure of like, I had expectations from my family a little bit that like,
Mm,
they
yeah.
really wanted me to be, in academia. Like, my dad is a statistician, my mom is she's a teacher. So, they kind of always expected me to be a doctor
Yes.
or a dentist or something very with high accolade. So,
Hmm.
in the professional field. So I did feel some pressure to, kind of go down that path. But it was also me just, I don't want to say settling because there are parts of my job that I really do enjoy now.
Yeah.
Um, but I think at the time I was just like, let's make a really smart move and let's do something where I can really take a stepping stone and bring in more money and have more time to do other things that I want to do.
Sure. Sure. It's interesting because I mean, you were born in the '90s, right?
Yep.
So I mean,
93.
what you just said about family pressure, you possible. I mean, talking to my mother when she was alive, I mean that those problems were back there in the '50s and the '60s, but still in the '90s. I mean, individuals like you are feeling that family pressure that sometimes can derail your goals, right? Derail your dreams.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I mean, that's such a common theme for so many people, and
Yeah.
I think my parents also felt that pressure from their parents to, go on and do more than they accomplished or did.
Yes.
So I think it kind of is that trickle down effect of what they expected from their parents, and then they kind of imparted that on, me and my siblings a little bit too.
Perfect. And Shannon, I'm sorry, Megan. I keep saying Shannon. I don't know why. Megan, what would your thought process? Okay, now let's say I did the dental aspect right, just to let's say comply with my parents, and now I'm going to follow my dreams. I mean, what was going through your mind? Because the reason I asked this question is so many people struggle. Am I making the right decision? I'm gonna make my parents proud.
Yeah.
I mean, how it's gonna be is the afraid of the unknown. Share a little bit about that transition from dental hygiene to what you really wanted to do.
Yeah. It is really scary, because there always will be this little voice in the back of my head that's like, maybe people won't approve of what I'm doing, especially my mom and dad and people that are really important to me and I care about what they think of me. But I think there's also a subconscious belief, in me that's like, can I even do this? Like, is this even possible for me to do?
Sure,
But I think the other voice that's even louder is saying, life life is meant for you. life is different for every single person and what you want out of that. And it's up to you individually to go after what is important to you and your passion. So I think the scary factor, the scariness of like my parents or, friends or coworkers, I have a lot of people in my life who I don't want to say aren't supportive. I have so much support from people in my life for me taking these next steps into the fitness industry, but also a lot of curiosity, especially like from my mom. And, she's like,
Yeah,
I don't understand. Like you're going to leave a really good paying job to what? Maybe not even make any money at first. So
correct.
it's super scary, but I know she's happy for me because she sees how excited I get when I talk about this. And she's like, you're right. Like, I think it is worth it for you to take the risk and really go for it, even if you don't know what's going to happen, because
Exactly.
it's it's
It
it's worth
takes courage,
yes.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Courage is not the lack of fear. It's like, besides that, perhaps I still have fear, but I'm gonna continue to walk that path with the fear that I'm feeling, but with my goal in mind, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think failure is inevitable. Like you're going to fail in some
So,
capacity no matter what. But like you said, the courage of overcoming those failures to get to your end goal,
yeah. Yeah.
that's the point, and that's kind of what keeps you going.
That's very well said, because I mean, they 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 taught us about failure. Like, okay, if you don't pass this test, you're a failure. If you don't do this, you're a failure. And failure is not, that's not the definition of failure. Failure is when you quit at something, then you fail. But if you fail, check it off, continue to move forward. That's a growing path, right?
Yeah.
A lesson learned. So cool. Megan, so again, dental hygiene. Now you decide, okay, I'm gonna go full into the fitness journey industry. How that started? Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah. Um, gosh, there's so much to my story, but and I already kind of let you know a little bit about the hygiene backstory and what got me into that. But where my fitness journey really started was I actually graduated and got my license in dental hygiene in 2020. So
Okay.
right in the middle of the pandemic. It's so crazy too that like I don't even know if at the time if I knew there was going to be a pandemic and I would have to work in people's mouths that I would have even gone into that field to begin with.
Yeah.
So it's just ironic how life happens like that. And I mean, I literally, I
And,
graduated
and
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 yeah.
more than that, Megan, is like, do I have work? Because I mean, people are afraid to
Yeah.
go to the dentist, right?
Yeah. No, it's crazy because I mean, it happened what in March, mid March or something
Yeah.
in 2020. I was still in school and they shut everything down. And the rest, like the last 2 months of my college, it was all remote. I didn't even go back to school, and
Wow.
I didn't even get a graduation, actually, which was a super bummer. But anyway, yeah, in that period of time, I was excited to start working. I wanted to make money. I actually didn't start working and get a job until I think it was August, until
Okay.
things had kind of simmered down because even dental offices were closed for
Sure.
that
Yeah.
period of time. So that was very scary at that point, just going into that. But the fitness part, how this plays in is when I was in school, I wasn't really working out much. I
Okay.
wasn't really spending a lot of time for personal care. I was there for a purpose and it was just study, 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 go to school. I'm not going to say that I was like a party girl. I mean, this is my mid 20s that I was finishing my bachelor's, so I feel like that party phase was kind of already done. But I just wasn't taking great care of myself. And during COVID too, staying indoors, I definitely was not exercising. I was drinking a lot more. I was eating more
Sure.
comfort foods, things that a lot of people were
Yep.
doing
Yep.
too. Um, so by the end of 2020, I kind of had this realization and revelation, and I kind of looked at myself and I was like, I don't like how I feel. I don't love how I look right now. I don't feel healthy. I don't wake up every day energized. I was always tired. I was always
Yeah.
cranky. And I just started really looking in and seeing, okay, what can I start doing to change this now? And I set a goal, and pretty much right then and there I said, all right, let's change this up. Let's start being a little more serious about going to the gym and eating healthier. And that's been, I mean, like 3.5 years now. And that's where it all started. And it
Okay.
definitely cascaded from there, kind of my motivation.
Question to you, Megan. Did you practice any sports growing up?
I danced growing up.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
So you have that uh, discipline structure, right, of the dancing and keeping yourself fitness, if that's a correct term,
Mhm.
eating healthy. I mean, that was on the basically on your, I mean, on your framework, right,
Yeah.
of your
Yeah.
discipline. Okay.
So I did have some history of dancing. I did competitive dancing. I was part of a dance team in high school.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I definitely knew some things about taking care of myself. So there was that history. And then through my 20s, I kind of, there were ups and downs of being really into fitness and then just kind of letting it go.
Okay. Okay. So I mean, put us on that specific time moment in time that you said, okay, I'm going to the fitness journey. So you start working out, I mean, by yourself. Do you start like getting more information about how to properly lift weight or doing exercise, how to properly eat or have a healthy diet? How was that process? It was all by yourself? Did you start gaining more information, studying the subject, or how was it?
Yeah. So both. Um, in the beginning, it was very much just an internal motivation. I just took it upon myself to start researching more, reading more books
Okay.
about nutrition, especially more whole food based. Like I've always been a fan of Mediterranean diet and just as close to whole food eating as possible. I've definitely dabbled in different diets too, just to experiment and see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, the fitness part too. Up until that point, I had never picked up a weight in my life.
Oh,
Like
wow.
any workouts I had ever done was more dancer-based workouts. So more the plyometrics and just
Mm-hmm.
using my body weight,
Sure.
and Pilates, stuff like that. So actually going to the gym, I did start going to the gym, but I was so intimidated because I didn't I didn't really know what to do, and I didn't wanna look stupid in front of people, like, lifting a weight.
Sure.
So for a while, even though I was there, I was still just doing, like, push-ups and things that I already knew how to do.
The
But I
usual.
figured I gotta start somewhere, and so little by little, I watched other people, do these things, and with social media now too, like Instagram especially, I was able to, find different fitness people and kind of watch tutorials on what they did, and YouTube videos, and very slowly, I started trying new things, like picking
Okay.
up dumbbells and actually, learning how to
Ooh, dumbbell.
learning yeah, yeah. I mean, at the time, it was scary, but, now it's like, "Oh, whatever," but yeah, and then, so it did start as kind of a more personal, goal that was very solo, but at the time I was also, dating my now fiance, and
Okay.
he was also very supportive, so he kind of also helped show me he was more into the weightlifting, and then he started kind of showing me a little by little, some more things to do,
Okay. So at that time, Megan, it was more, let me get physically ready, because I mean, what you just shared was COVID. You start eating junk food, not exercising or not exercising at all, just the dance basis.
Mhm.
And now is let me start doing something for myself. My question is more like, with that fitness industry on your mind on that moment, or it was more like, let me get,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think
better.
at that moment, I didn't really know that I wanted to do something
Okay.
in the fitness industry. I think at that point, especially at the end of 2020 and 2021, it was really just all about me and just I wanted to look better. I wanted to feel better. It was totally selfish. It
Okay.
wasn't,
Yeah, yeah.
I had no intention. It just was, I wanted to do something for me. And it really wasn't until I would say 2022, so a couple years into it, that this love of working out and this newfound routine of going to the gym and consistently cooking healthy meals for myself
Yeah.
evolved into something that was more, wow, like I really love this. And people see me doing this. I started getting a lot of feedback from friends, family,
Sure.
like Instagram following, that they were like, wow, like
Above
I love
headwear.
thing. Yeah, and I started thinking about it, and I was like, "Well, I love sharing this. Like, I want everyone to feel as good as I do." So I think that's when it really started taking in my mind, that I was like, "Huh, maybe there's something here. Maybe this is something I could share with other people."
Correct, correct. But that was Megan, because you sure, I have in my notes, you were going in 2022 through some tough moments, right? Could you, if you want, could you elaborate on those, and what what happened, and if that was, let's say, the spark or the
Yeah.
motivation to continue fully inserted into this pathway?
Yeah. So, there've been many, low moments in this fitness journey, as well as high moments.
Mm.
I have always kind of battled with anxiety and depression, even since I was really young.
Okay.
And, that comes and goes. It's something that's a lifelong thing that you kind of just got to work through. Um, I think when it all started, I was certainly in like a low point where the drinking, the unhealthy eating, the not taking care of myself wasn't helping my mental health at all.
Okay.
So that was something that I knew, if I started making changes, things that I could control, I knew rationally that it would help me mentally feel better too. Um, and like I said, I mean, it's a lifelong process. So it's not like, I just woke up one day and I said, enough is enough. I'm never going to be depressed again. It was something that I always battle with a little bit, with
Okay.
the voices that are like, oh, like some days are just harder than others. And I think a truly low moment, if I had to really pinpoint one time that just was rock bottom, it was the end of 2022. I was actually in a pretty decent place as far as people could see. I had a good
Hmm.
job. I had already been working on myself. My fitness was good. I was fitness modeling. So I had all these things going for me. I was living with my boyfriend. We had got a place together, had a dog, all these things. And um, I just kind of felt stuck. I just kind of felt like, is this it? Like, is this, and maybe
Yeah.
this is one of those things where, everyone deals with, I don't know, like, things could be going right, but then
Yeah.
life just gets hard in some way, shape, or form. So I kind of let myself go down this slump of just feeling like it,
This is it.
yeah, I mean, there are definitely things that factored in. I think at this point too, I was really questioning my life choices of doing dental hygiene. At this point, I had been
Oh,
doing it for a couple of years and I really didn't like it. I realized this is not what I want to do. I was fitness modeling and I was doing a lot of shoots, and I had applied to like a bunch of modeling agencies, and I got no's from like 30 agencies. I didn't get a single yes.
Wow.
And it really like hurt me because I was like, wow, like, you know, I'm kind of getting all these doors shut despite
Yeah.
all this hard work I'm doing. And it really took a toll on me mentally. So I did kind of let myself sit and ruminate in kind of that, self-pity
Okay.
for a little bit. And then
Okay.
what really snapped me out of that was kind of the same thing back in 2020. I was like, okay, I'm tired of feeling like this. And I
Yeah.
know nobody can change my life but me. So I said, okay, I know that I like working out. I like eating well. Maybe if I set a really big goal for myself, maybe this would help me kind of overcome what I'm in now. And then this is where the bodybuilding came into play and actually
Wow.
deciding that I was going to compete in a competition. So I got this idea in my head. I was like, well, what if I don't know, like I had seen stuff on Instagram and on, TV, and
I can do this.
I was like, "That's badass." I was like, "If someone can go on stage, like, half naked and just show off their body and, like, own it and be confident and all the work that goes into that too," I was like, "That would just be such a cool goal to do."
Let's put a pause there, Megan,
Yeah.
because I wanna reinforce what you just said in terms of feeling stuck. And maybe there's people watching us or listen to us that are feeling the same way. You share the spark was saying or focusing on what I'm good at instead of focusing on, I mean, I'm stuck, people are shutting doors on me, but I'm really good at this and enjoying this. Let's focus on this pathway to get out of that slump. Is that, I mean, is that fair to that what I just said?
That's absolutely, yeah, that's absolutely it, is when you're in that slump, I feel like you're focusing on all the bad things and
Yeah,
everything that's going wrong. And the only way out of that is to switch your mindset into things that you can control and things that do bring you joy and things that you are good at. And when you start switching your mindset, as hard as that is, especially if you're so down low, it just starts with little tiny steps or one idea. And how can you start doing things to get yourself out of that? It's not an instant switch. It's not like you just say, okay, like we're done feeling
yeah,
sorry for ourselves, but you're right. It is focusing on the good things.
love it, love it. Well said, well said, Megan. So now, okay, so you just put on your mind, maybe I can do. I'm a bodybuilder. I mean, why not? Let's follow that path. I mean, I'm putting myself into your shoes. I mean, because I have mind goals, fitness goal, but it's so hard to achieve them. In my case, it's mostly discipline. Obviously, I mean, to be a bodybuilder or be in the fitness industry, you must have that discipline. Talk about, please, your discipline, how you stay on the right lane with all of the distractions going on.
Yeah. Um, gosh. Well, I would say at first the discipline does not come easy. It starts with a desire. You got to want a result bad enough that the work is like your desire to reach your goal overcomes
Yes,
any thought of, oh, this is too hard today, or oh, I don't want to do this. So I would say that that's the most important thing, especially when I started doing it, was I held on to this idea and this goal that this is what I wanted. And that kind of propelled me forward to keep being disciplined. But there were certainly a lot of tips and tricks and things that I did along the way to stay disciplined. discipline is a funny thing because they say, where motivation fails, discipline will supersede that.
Yes.
You're not going to feel motivated every single day. That's where discipline really kicks in, and that, kind of has to override
Yeah.
the feelings of doubt. But so I would say there's a few things. For me, especially with the bodybuilding competition, something so extreme that I had no experience doing. I still had only lifting weights for like a year. Like
Yeah.
I didn't even think I was going to win or anything. I was just like, okay, let's just
Yeah.
let's just
Let's get
find
into
out.
the contest.
Let's just get into it. I I did spend I spent quite a bit of time like I like meditating. So there was a period of time every single morning where I would wake up, and even if it was just 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes, where I would like close my eyes
Hmm.
and just envision what it is that I wanted, but then how good it would feel to not just reach that, but like what could my life look like if I did this? And how proud of myself would I be for doing that? So I would
Yeah.
spend some time in that mindset, especially initially in the day. Um, and then, I was still working, a 9 to 5 job that I wasn't crazy about.
No.
And then when I would get off work at 5 o'clock, I definitely wasn't always motivated to go to the gym. I was really tired, but I slowly started becoming really excited about going to the gym. I started almost training my brain to think this is a treat that I get to do this. This isn't something that I have to do. Nobody's forcing me to do this. This is a
No.
choice. Um and there were things like specifically with the gym, like there were things that made it really exciting for me. Like I put together these incredible playlists that I was just so excited to hear these songs at the gym that I wouldn't listen to any other time. So it's like I would treat myself, or there were podcasts that I would listen to that I wouldn't let myself listen to at any other time. So it's almost like I had these little mental tricks that I was like, okay, I'll reward myself with something that I already like or want with a new routine that maybe is hard at first. And
I'm taking notes.
oh, great. And I mean, it's a loaded question because in the beginning, the discipline aspect was much different than when I was in the thick of it in prep for the competition. When it got really hard and I
Okay.
wanted to quit, um, I think more the discipline was I'm also a very stubborn person. So I,
That helps.
and so I really just there was no backing out. Like when I was in that thick of it and something that serious. I mean, at that point too, I was in a calorie deficit, and like my nutrition was also very like I was eating the same thing for 4 months straight. And very low calories. And actually from a physiological standpoint, I really couldn't just quit. I would have done more harm to my body than good if I just said,
Oh.
nah. So
Megan, so okay, step back. So you start this body building process by yourself. I mean, no trainer and no nutritionist. It was
so
all you.
yeah. So I would say yes and no. I mean, yes, most of it was just completely me. I came up with my own workouts, my own regimen, my own diet.
Oh my
My
god!
fiance, yeah, my fiance helped me a lot with like for a while I was kind of like any upper body training he was doing, I would be like, all right, I'll work out with you today because I
Okay.
want to see what you're doing, kind of thing like that. And then um, by the time it was like April of 2023. At this point, I had already, like, I knew I was going to do this bodybuilding competition. And for like 4 months, I was just trying to focus on eating very clean. I was overeating, like in a surplus on purpose, because I did research and I knew that in order to build muscle, you do need to eat
Yeah.
more calories than you burn to build. So I was just in like applying this basic understanding of nutrition and what this means to build muscle. And I was just kind of doing all this completely on my own.
Wow.
Um, and then around April, I realized I was like, okay, I started
Megan,
thinking,
so I have to interrupt you. Sorry, sorry, sorry.
yeah, sure.
There's a lot of people out there making excuses.
Yeah,
Oh, I mean, I can't do this because I don't have a trainer. Trainers are very expensive. There's a lot of information, and that's very true. I mean, there's a lot of information on social media, on the internet, about how do things that you could get caught up into inaction, right? So that's very important. I mean, how do you manage the load of information? Obviously, you have a background in science, which helps a lot, but still there's a lot of bombarding. Do this, do that. How do you manage those overload of information and putting a plan together?
that's a great question. So there's got to be some filtering that you have to do yourself. Um, I mean, for me in this experience, I did use a lot of, like you said, my previous understanding of like a science background. So
Mhm.
I already knew a little bit, but and like I said, like I did a lot of research. And I just, by process of elimination, I kind of had to figure out what worked for me too. Cause like you said, there's an abundance of information out there with differing opinions on what works, what doesn't. And like, for example, when I was researching different bodybuilding nutrition plans, a lot of it came back with, eat, I don't know, like a bunch of white rice and lean chicken and spinach and, very clean bulk, but like lots of carbs and
Mhm.
this and that. And I don't like eating that. So I was like, for example, I already really loved eating like quinoa and
Okay.
salmon and zucchini, which for me, like there is way more nutritional value and nutrient density. So I think it's kind of like you have to be very selective about the information that you're intaking. I think it's important to be receptive and open to different things, but and a lot of it is trial and error. Like, you know, sometimes you do just have to try something, and if it doesn't work, then move on and learn
Sure.
from it and just pick something else.
But I
But
think, Megan, to your point, the key here was you you did a filter of information,
mhm,
but what was not trial and error was what you like. So you
yeah,
base all the information on what you like, and you thought it was healthy because either you tried it or you knew about it, right?
yeah.
So it's filtering that information, customize it to your needs.
Exactly. What works for one person isn't going to work for everybody. And you're going to be way more successful with a fitness plan, like workouts, a diet, if it appeals to you and it's something
Sure.
that you actually like.
Sure.
So I think it's important to have that piece that is personal to you because it's like if you are reading, articles that is saying,
Yeah.
you need to, I don't know, like, eat these things every day. Like, I don't know, like eat ginger every day or something because it helps with inflammation. But you don't like ginger? I mean,
It's
then
gonna be
that's
tough.
then listen to that. Then find some other thing, some other anti-inflammatory agent that's going to
Sure.
help. So,
Sure.
I think to answer your question kind of more fully is I think you first have to ask yourself what your values are and what you like and what's important to you. And through that lens, then filter out any other incoming information.
There you go. There you go. Well said. Well said, Megan. So I have in my notes, Megan. So you start this journey, full commitment. I wanted to be on this fitness contest. it was November, I mean late 2022, right?
Mhm.
And the contest was in August 2023, less than a
Yep.
year.
Mhm.
Okay. Talk to me about what that year looks like in terms of, I mean, maybe you can divide it into phases. I did this at the very beginning. How
Mhm.
do you mentally, physically prepare to that contest?
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it probably is easiest to speak about it in phases because that's really what it felt like. And I was going into this pretty blind, no
Yeah.
experience. So in the beginning, it was very exciting. I think just like starting anything new, there's this excitement factor that's like, oh, like this is cool. Like I get to, work out differently. I get to experiment with different things and it's new, it's exciting, it's something you haven't done before. So
Yeah.
I would say the first like maybe 4 months or so, it was really enjoyable because I had this new motivation in the gym. I was having fun. I was really pushing myself, but I was still just like enjoying the process and nothing was super serious yet. I mean, I was, just trying to have fun with it, but also challenge myself to
And
lift.
you were seeing results, right? I'm guessing that's the
Definitely.
motivation also.
I mean, I was definitely seeing results because at this time too, I also made a commitment that I totally cut out drinking. I will say that.
Oof.
I think that is actually one of the biggest reasons like I was able to just excel as quickly as I did is I really got serious with myself and I said, look, if I'm serious and if I really want to see how much I can improve in such a short amount of time, I need to eliminate things that I know aren't going to help me. So,
Yeah.
I stopped drinking. I think it was actually January.
It was hard for you, Megan?
I mean, I've always socially drank and,
Okay.
will enjoy beers and going out more that than like, drinking after work, but that was tough to kind of give that up cold turkey for pretty much a whole year. Um but at first that was actually really hard because it just changed my routine. Like where
Yeah.
I would go out with friends and have a beer. If they invited me, I was kind of like, I'm not
Yeah.
really doing that right now. So saying no and kind of changing my routine was really hard at
Yeah.
first on that side.
I can imagine that. Yep.
So I guess enter phase two. Maybe this is like 4 months into it. The drinking, or I should say, not drinking part became very easy. Like
Okay.
after a while, I was like, oh, this is just my new normal. Like I'm just not doing that anymore. And doing other things
Is
too.
your body and your nervous system adjusting, right, to that
Yeah.
withdrawal? I don't know if you are aware. I have Rick Plona as a guest on a previous podcast. He's currently a fitness trainer, but he was suffering from alcoholism. He was explaining what happened to your body when you drink and then when you stop drinking. So yeah.
Fast. Yeah, actually I did hear a little bit about that. I think your neural system, like you kind of you do become kind of dependent on it
Sure.
because yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the same thing happened biologically. My body just realized like it relearned in a quick time frame that like, okay, this is what's normal for it now.
Okay.
Let's see, phase two. Um, this is when so in April of 2023,
Okay.
I actually did reach out to, she was a competition coach. So she's someone who had competed in bodybuilding competitions before.
Okay.
I found out about her from a friend of a friend and reached out to her. And I wanted help with more just kind of what to expect with the competition. Like, how do I pose? Like, you
Okay.
know, so I did have some help with, as it got closer in, I wanted someone who was more experienced just to help kind of guide me. Um, and she did help me kind of fine tune some like a nutrition plan. And she kind of gave me some pointers of, okay, while you're now cutting, because at April of 2023, it was no longer building muscle.
Correct.
I reached
Okay.
out to her and she said, okay, I think I sent her some pictures and I told her I wanted to compete, like late summer. And she said, okay, you need to start cutting now. And I was like, oh,
What?
okay. Like, great. Okay. I guess I didn't think I was ready, but okay. She's like, no, you're ready now. Let's go.
This is 4 months prior to the contest,
Yeah,
okay?
this is 4 months. And I was like, wow, okay. Okay. So long story short on that, again, because it was a new kind of phase, I was kind of excited about it. I was like, okay, like challenge accepted. We can, reduce our
Right.
calories and eat less and, start seeing like more of the shreds. And for anybody who doesn't know much about the cutting process and the bodybuilding competition is
Please. Yeah.
yeah, you're in a calorie deficit, which means you are purposely trying to lose as much body fat as possible while still maintaining your muscle. So
Got it.
you don't want to break down the muscle, but you want to lose the fat.
So
And
in terms of lifting weights, you were continuously doing weight lift, same weight, but
mm,
doing the deficit, or how
yeah,
was it?
yep, yep.
Okay.
So the idea is you have to eat less than you're expending. So
While pumping
yeah,
iron.
so yeah, so you have to eat less, but you also have to maintain your muscle because if you are eating less and quote unquote dieting to lose weight, whether that's fat or muscle, your body doesn't necessarily differentiate between fat and muscle. It'll just start using what it can to break down. So a lot of times when people are losing weight, unless you're actively lifting weights and trying to maintain your muscle, your body will actually break down that muscle too.
Okay.
Um, so in order to counteract that, you have to still weight train. And then also cardio was a big piece of that. So you have to lift weights to the same capacity, if not maybe a little less, because it towards the end, I couldn't lift as much as I could, when I was eating a lot. It just naturally that just doesn't happen. So you just have to try to maintain as much as you can, and do a lot of cardio so you're losing the weight and eat less. So
No wonder you said the dropping alcohol was the easiest part.
yeah, yeah, it ended up being like the easiest
This
thing.
is way harder, definitely.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
So now you're April, you start cutting, shredding your body. What happened?
yeah. So um it was really exciting at first. I started seeing things almost instantly. I think I even surprised my coach with how fast I was able to like get rid of body fat. I didn't have a ton to begin with, but I think a lot of that too is I took it so seriously. Like she told me to drink a gallon of water a day, no problem. Like did it. Like she told me to eat this, no problem, did it. Like I
Okay.
meal prepped. I followed everything to a T so that I was like, there is nothing that is, I'm not going to do
Stopping
anything.
me.
Yeah, like half ass. Like I'm going to do this to a T and be as thorough as I can. Um, the first month was not bad. It was just an adjustment. My body, I definitely was hungry on some days, but it wasn't anything terrible.
Okay.
I would say 2 months in was when it got really hard. Um,
Wow.
2 months of just eating, like, really low calorie and the same food for 2 months, it was getting pretty old. Um, and I'm somebody who I I love cooking and I love making different things every day. So it was very hard for me it got to the point where it was actually kind of crazy because I I had to like almost think about food not in the same way that I did anymore.
Okay. Interesting.
I wasn't excited to eat anymore. I was just kind of like, I have to just do this to survive.
Got it.
Um, so that part was very extreme.
And Megan, eating the same thing every day was more to stay disciplined, or is because it was needed? And
No,
it's easier on you.
that's in truth, now that I have been through it and have, I know what I know now, being a certified nutrition coach since that, I don't think it was actually necessary to eat the same thing every single day.
Okay.
I think it was more now, not to say that is actually very typical in the bodybuilding industry that you do just for consistency's sake,
Consistency, yeah.
mostly consistency, and that your body, there's a lot of things that are happening when you're in that low of a deficit. Your hormones are all over the place. You're just trying to stabilize and your body and eliminate other factors. So I think a lot of that was just to help stay consistent. But I mean, if I were to do this again, I think the most important thing is you just have to hit certain macros and a total amount of calories. And how you do that, like next time, I would probably do it myself and I would be eating different things as long
Okay.
as I'm hitting certain goals. So that part of it, though, I think the food and the eating became the hardest thing for me in that whole process because I started hating eating. It just got really hard. It got so hard because I was like, I just don't want to eat, like
Yeah.
literally like a little spoonful of cream of rice with like 5 raspberries for breakfast. I was
That
like,
was it.
yeah, I mean, I ate 5 times a day, but like very, very small. I mean, I I got to the
Wow.
point where I wasn't eating around anybody. Like I just like my coworkers, like they were very like, you know, they saw what I was eating and they were really concerned, because they're like, Megan, that's not a lot of food.
Of
And,
course.
my family was concerned. My fiance was a little concerned too, but I knew it was all part of the process. So I just kind of told myself, I was like, this isn't forever. Like, this isn't forever.
And
This
this
is
is a goal of mine, and I'm gonna do
yeah,
it regardless, right? I think that was
yeah.
it, right?
I think, and this is where I said before too, my end goal just overrode any, you know, hardship that I had with the meal or eating. It just, I just kept pushing through because I was like, I know what the goal is. And also knowing that this wasn't forever, the situation, I wasn't going to eat like this forever. So I kind of kept telling myself too, okay, um, I have an end goal, but then to break it up into each day, I try to just focus on it one day at a time.
Okay. That was
So
my question because you said at the beginning you do meditation.
yeah.
Great. You do meditation at the very beginning of the day, but once you walk out that door, that's gone. There's distractions. There's a lot of temptations. There's a lot of people saying, "Nah, nah, nah, you're not gonna make it." The enemy is talking to your ear. You're not worth it. You're not enough. This is not gonna happen. So that answered my question. I mean, how do you manage that to that goal to be in front of you, on top of mind, every second, every moment? So the answer will be taking one day at a time, right?
Really, that's what it boils down to is
Mhm.
I think having that end goal in sight, but then focusing on the present moment and not being so fixated on, oh, this is going to happen tomorrow and the next day and the
Tomorrow.
next day. It's just focusing on today. And okay, if I can make it through today, then that's all that matters. And then I'll do it again tomorrow.
There you go. Big goals create the sparks, and then break that big goal into small, small, small goals,
Mhm.
in order to maintain that discipline and to be consistent. So
Yeah,
great, great,
absolutely.
great. So now the question, Megan, is: will you do it again?
Yeah. Well,
Knowing what you know.
yeah. Gosh, I've gone back and forth so many times. And for people listening who the end of the story basically with the bodybuilding competition, I actually won the whole competition.
Yes.
Which was unreal. It was my first time ever doing it. I won first place overall in my division.
unreal. And Megan, I want to take this opportunity, sorry to interrupt, to show some pictures. Thank you for sending them. Talk to us about this picture. This is obviously way before your fitness career. So when was this picture? This is how you look when you started?
Mm-hmm. This was actually this was in 2020. So this was before I even really started seriously working out. I mean, obviously I'm on a um I am doing something physically active, but you can actually see I have alcohol on my board
You
right there.
have alcohol, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think I look unwildly out of shape there. I'm actually still like, I look at that now and I'm like, huh, like, I look pretty okay. Like, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
I got a
actually,
smile on my face. I'm happy, but that kind of was how I took my fitness was, I was drinking while I was, you know, doing, something. So it obviously wasn't I wasn't as serious or committed or disciplined with, my physical fitness or health at that point.
yes. So now, Megan, I'm gonna show the picture of that night at the event when you won. I mean, wow. No
Yeah,
words. I mean,
thank you.
the
Yeah.
difference is huge. Talk to me about that night. You I mean, when you decided I'm going to the fitness journey, I'm gonna compete in a bodybuilding contest with just be that night there, just to compete and check. Where you were thinking and to winning the contest, and if not, when you start noticing like I could win this tonight.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great question. I love that one. So like I said in the beginning, I never would have imagined I would have won. It wasn't even a goal to win. It was more just I just want to challenge myself to do something different. And no
Sure.
matter what the result was, that the goal was just to get on stage and just to follow through and commit and do it. Um, but as it went on and as I started seeing these gains and as I started really getting a lot of feedback from supportive people in my life, because I also did share my whole journey on Instagram and on social media, and
Sure.
people were really interested. Like, I was so surprised. Like, I think it was, I shared my highs and lows. So I felt like maybe they felt like they were on this journey with me.
Yes.
And I started getting all this feedback and I started asking myself, and I was like, well, what if, what if I did place? Like, what if I did do really well? And what if I won? Like, could I? I don't
Could
know,
I?
maybe. And it's almost like I started really believing little by little that not only could I do this and get to the finish line and actually get on stage, but I was like, wow, like it's really tough, especially in the fitness world where, you're comparing your body and your physique to other people.
Yes.
And the very nature of the bodybuilding competition is you are literally being compared to other people's physiques.
Yep.
So that can be very hard. Mentally too, because it's like, oh, like I don't maybe, but it's also in the judge's eyes. I mean, there's certain standards they look for, but I would say like midway through, I really, again with the meditation and the visualization, I started visualizing what would it feel like
Oh,
if I won? What would it sound like if they called my name and my number at the end? And I just started like having this vision of, me like them calling out my name and being so happy and like
the
I don't
feelings.
know how yeah, I almost don't know how to explain this, but the more I thought about it and the more I relished in the idea, I almost like I had already had the experience in my mind that when it came down time for the competition and, I got on stage and um I definitely had self-doubt up to the very end. Like I was shaking as I was walking on stage and I just I just kept pushing through. I mean, I saw everyone else there and, they saw me, and there were so many women who just looked incredible there that I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's no way." Like these people have been doing this for years. Like, and this is my first time. There's no way. Like, but I just kept I think the other thing too is part of the competition is they're not just looking at your physique, that is most of it, but they're looking at the overall package. So they're looking at your confidence, they're looking at your posing, they want you
Mhm.
to make eye contact. And I was like, look, I'm just gonna go out there, I'm gonna have fun, I'm gonna try. Like,
Yeah,
and ultimately, when it's
nothing to lose, right?
right, and I'm like, I'm already a winner because I already did exactly what I said I was going to do, and no matter what happens, I'm proud of myself. Um, and I had, like, written myself, like, I'm not even kidding, like, hundreds of little notes to myself, like, every day to my future self that I was like, "I'm so proud of you. You made it so far." And the day of the competition, I looked back and I read all these notes to myself, and
Wow.
I was already like it was such a monumental moment because when I got on that stage and then when they called out my name that I had won, like, it was just overwhelming. But
Wow.
I also I wasn't surprised when I won to s because, like I said, I
You
had already
felt it. You lived it.
I manifested it. I mean,
Yes.
I truly believe that I already went there in my mind so many times that it was almost inevitable that I would get there in the physical world too.
I love it, Megan. Actually, the first book that I ever read was, and I know the title is The Ultimate Guide for Mental Toughness. And the author basically described what you just described. You have to put a big goal on mind, meditate on it, like it internalize it, and you will start noticing that your brain, because your brain doesn't know if it's true or it's a reality or it's a fantasy, right? And you start feeling those goosebumps, maybe you cry, you get that emotion. Now you know how it feels. You just have to follow that pathway into your goal. So I mean, very well said, and reminds me of that book. I'm gonna look at the book. I'm gonna share it, take a picture and share it with you.
Please do.
Great book.
Yeah.
Wow. So is it Megan, like a beauty contest? Like, okay, top 10 finalists, top 5. What is the exact internal process going on that those last moments?
Yeah. So they do kind of um they do narrow it down to like top it depends on how many people are competing in that competition, but they
Sure.
do narrow it down to like a top 10 or top 5. Um and then usually from there, like you kind of have your debut, you go out on stage, you pose, and then you come off, and then the judges will tally, based on XYZ, and then they'll bring you back out. If you were on the top, they'll usually bring you back out,
Okay.
and then kind of do the same thing. So actually, that time, the second time, they had me pose in like a line of people that I was kind of in the top running with. So that was really intimidating too. That it's like, oh, like okay, I made it this far. Like now I'm next to these people doing this. And then they actually did it a third time. So it was me and the other girl. And so it was just between us two. And they had us, and it was so nerve-wracking because they had us pose and hold a pose for like as long as they wanted us to, and then say, okay, switch, and then pose again, pose, like just keep doing it so that they could,
Wow.
I guess, keep seeing us from every angle and
Uh-huh.
just like I think part of it is mental too, that it's like, are
Yeah.
they gonna break under pressure? Are they gonna trip? Are they gonna, so yeah, it is kind of like process of elimination to kind of see, um, yeah, like breaking
Wow.
it down at the end. But yeah,
So
so
when they announce you and the winner is Megan Hannon, what went through your mind?
it was just so many different emotions, like, mostly just proud. I was very proud of myself. I also felt like everything that I had done up until that point, all the discipline, all the grueling workouts, all the long days, the eating the same thing for 4 months, it all paid off.
Yes.
And that was such a relief. But I think in that moment too, like bodybuilding is it's a solo sport. You're kind of competing against yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously you're compared to other people, but the whole process was very kind of, I wanna
By
say
yourself.
lonely, but it was all just me. It wasn't like I was doing this with a group of people. So the competition to actually see all these other men and women who were actually doing the same thing as me the whole time was actually very, um, kind of inspiring, and I did feel a sense of camaraderie, like, that
Sure.
I didn't think I would feel, that I was really proud of them too, because I was like, "Wow, like, I know what it took for me to do this, and I know it was probably just as hard, if not harder, for other people who, like, had kids or,
Yep.
had different experiences or different things in their life." So, I think I felt an immense, sense of pride in what I had accomplished. That was and actually in that moment too, I definitely rode a high, right? Like I was on cloud 9 for like, a few days and I was like, "Ah, I'm a winner," but then actually a really incredible thing happened. Um, I kind of had this like, "Well, now what?" moment.
Hmm.
I was like, "Well, like I did exactly what I said I was going to do and then some, but now what? Like now that this is over, like what happens now?"
What happened?
Yeah, well,
Were you afraid to getting on the same slump that the previous
actually
one?
Actually, it's fascinating because if I'm being honest, with you and with other people listening to this, and this isn't something I've actually talked about a lot with, a lot of people who know me, is I actually did kind of go back into like almost like a depression after the show was over. Um
No.
and I think it's actually, now that I know a lot about bodybuilding, this is actually very common for a lot of bodybuilders, is because you're just doing this extreme sport, and then
Mm-hmm.
when it's over, it's like, "Well, now what?" Like,
No, what?
now so that's why a lot of bodybuilders, they do make it a lifelong experience where they go through another phase of building and then cutting, building, cutting, and it becomes very cyclical because and I understand now why this whole lifestyle can be very almost like addicting,
Yep.
because you get all this feedback, but you know, I think the biggest thing is I had a lot of I met a lot of really incredible girls who I competed with and who reached out to me, on Instagram, and I really built this community of people that had been in my shoes before and knew what I was feeling. So it also felt I had a lot of support. So when I did feel down after that, like what's next, and the feeling, the high kind of was over, like it was very validating to feel normal, that this is very normal, that when you achieve a goal,
Yeah.
especially if it's a huge goal in your life and you actually achieve that, and then you're like, "Well, everything that I just worked for, like that goal is done. So now what?"
Now what?
And it can be very sad in a way because it's like, but then that's when the whole discipline of and reimagination and visualization comes back in, that it's like, okay, it's not, maybe this is done, but now it's exciting because you get to set a new goal.
A new goal.
Exactly.
There you go. Wow. Megan, I mean, your story is so incredible. I mean, and it's not. I mean, it's the mind, the physical aspect is so. It was so difficult what you just went through, but also how you keep your growing mentality, your mindset through the process. So, I mean, I'm honored to have you here in the show. Congratulations. But I would like to ask you this. I mean, any words like of advice for the audience listening to us? I mean, regardless all this process, I mean, what do you want them to get out of this conversation?
Yeah. I would say if there's one, you know, piece of advice or a word of wisdom that I would want to impart on anybody listening to this, whether you can relate to the bodybuilding or maybe you're just somebody who is, in a place where, you want to better yourself and you don't maybe, have the discipline or the motivation or you're trying to overcome that. What I would really say is don't let yourself stay in a low place for that long. And I know it's really hard to stay there, especially if you're used to it because it's
Hmm.
comfortable. And doing things that scare you is very hard. Your body naturally is trying to keep you safe. And the emotions that you have, especially around things around change, they're actually there and they're designed to help keep you safe.
Yes.
Your body, I don't want to say it's like it's resistant to change, but literally from a physics standpoint, you know, objects in motion stay in motion, objects at rest stay at rest. And it's just a natural law too of the universe that change is scary and takes effort. But that doesn't mean that you should let your emotions overrule the rational thinking that we as human beings are uniquely capable of doing to overcome things. And when I say all that, I think the most inspiring thing of all is that things do get better. They really do. Life change is inevitable in life.
Hmm.
And I think you can either embrace change and ride the wave of change, or you can choose to not. Either way, it's a choice. And even when that choice seems really difficult, it doesn't mean that you have to choose change and choose to be perfect and do this all the time. That's not normal either. That's okay. It is totally okay not to be perfect and not to, feel motivated all the time. But if you just take one small step, make it realistic for yourself. Do one small thing today and do it again tomorrow. And then if you don't do it again the third day, it's okay. But do your best to do it again the fourth day.
Yeah.
And little by little, if you start doing these things in a small capacity, they really will add up to huge successes later on. And it's still something like, despite, I mean, even though I have this incredible fitness journey story and success story with the bodybuilding, I'm still somebody who struggles with, like even somebody who's done all this, I still, um, you know, have imposter syndrome sometimes that I'm like, oh, like, even though I did all this and I'm creating this health coaching business right now and getting certified to be a personal trainer and all these things to transition, it's so scary. I'm so scared because I'm like, what if it fails? What if it doesn't work? Like, what if nobody wants to work with me? What if I'm a failure?
Yeah.
But it's like, don't let the fear of that hold you back because you will, and from personal experience, you'll never regret trying to do something and failing more than you'll regret never trying at all and wondering what could have been if that's something you really want. So, if there's a will, there's a way. And I think you got this. Everybody out there, you've got this. No matter what you want, I believe in you. You can do it for sure.
Amen. Well said, Megan. Well said. Love it. Megan, again, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your story. Super, again, honored to have you on the show. Blessings to you, to your family, to your fiance. Blessings on your new fitness business. So maybe you can join the podcast later. after that business, so you can tell us how it goes, right?
I would love that so much. And thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun to talk about, and
Great.
actually very what I don't know what the word is. Like, this has been really uplifting for me to talk about it. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to
Sure.
talk about this. And yeah, I hope somebody hears this and is inspired.
There you go. There you go. Well said. Blessings. Thank you so much, Megan.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Above Mentality Podcast. If you enjoyed the stories and insights shared today, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with friends and family. Your feedback is very important to us. Stay connected with us on social media or visit us at aboveheadwear.com. Remember, live the above mentality and keep rising above. See you next time.